First things first though, my album is out now. What chances are me getting rejected if I submit unfinished (brackets but solid) ideas in opposed to finished tracks? Listening to your album from start to finish, it's in my top 3 albums of 2020. Why so many references to breakbeat? What's your real feelings about artificial intelligence? Do you leave all your mix, EQ, compression, reverb choices to the Mixbus project and have only stylistic EQ, compression, etc. in Bitwig? When mastering your tracks, do you use third-party plugins or Bitwig ones? Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It is Friday. It's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply. Comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. First things first though, my album is out now, today, this very second. You can go and listen to it. If you haven't heard it already, pause this video, click the link below and check it out and let me know what you think. It's always very scary when a release comes out, because first of all, I never know if anyone's actually going to like it. Second of all, I never know if it's actually going to be out when it's supposed to be out. Case in point was the first track on the album was supposed to be available when you pre-ordered the album, whenever it was, a month ago. And we'd been having issues with that. Some people seemed to get it and some people didn't. It was all very weird. So I'm filming this on a Thursday. The video comes out on a Friday. I hope I'm not wrong in saying my album is out now. It should be out now. There should be a link below this video saying something like, get my album here. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. So first of all, you know, a huge thank you to everyone that has listened to the album. So those of you that were on Kickstarter and those of you that have pre-ordered, you'll have heard most of it and have given feedback to me, and it's all been very positive. So I'm really chuffed with that, honestly. Yeah, I don't really know what to say at this point. Like I say, it's been a long time coming. I think the difference with an album, for me, this is my debut album, and I've said this all along, that for me an album is something that should last, I don't know, a good length of time. I mean, a good album should last forever, really. So hopefully mine's at least all right. But, you know, albums are the kinds of things that I think a good quality album, you know, you'll always go back to and you'll listen to again and again. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted my album to tell a story. So for those of you that have only bought this as a digital album, there is a narrative that goes with the tracks. I will make that available one way or another. I have made it available. It's not hidden or secret, but it's on the 5302.co.uk website. I think it's with the release there. Yeah, so it's Friday, album time. It's beer o'clock, so welcome to Beer Club again. Yeah, I'm not too sure on what I'm supposed to say, but I feel like I need to at least spend some time on talking about my album here. I think the most important thing that I need to ask everyone watching this video, especially if you're watching it not in real time but within the first couple of weeks of release, the most important thing for me, if I'm going to be totally honest, is if you have pre-ordered or bought the album, please do so on iTunes or whatever your preferred method is. Otherwise, please do go and listen to it on Spotify. Listen to it as much as you can, as many times as you can this week and next week, because my understanding is that Spotify likes to playlist stuff that becomes popular in the first week. I assume it's to do with their algorithms. Will basically look for what gets lots of listens in the first couple of weeks. So I think that's important because that then gets everything kind of spiraling a bit and gets the ball rolling. So if you would be so kind, I would really appreciate that. But if you don't, that's fine too. It's all good. So I guess hopefully we'll have some questions in next week's video. Those of you that are watching my waffle right now, please do ask me anything you want about the album. I will be doing a few tutorials coming up at some point. I will definitely be doing one for my good friends at Sonic Academy, because let's face it, I always do with my EPs and albums over the last few years, so that's pretty much dead cert. But I think I'll probably do so with Sonic Academy, I like to do a literal step-by-step remake of a track, and sometimes, unfortunately, I improve it. But sort of do a step-by-step thing. I think for this channel I'd like to do some more theoretical stuff, but we'll see. I will definitely be doing stuff for this channel for the album. You tell me if there's anything you particularly want to see or hear, or I don't know. So yeah, like I say, please do go listen to it on Spotify. The great thing about Spotify is it's free. If you've bought it on iTunes or any of those, also please do, if you like it, that is, please do give it a good review or a rating. Again, these things sort of get picked up by the algorithms, and if they see a new release is getting good reviews and good ratings, then they'll usually sort of bump that up on, and make it, add a bit more presence to it, basically. So I think that pays off in the long run. Who knows? It's my first album. Yeah, that, my friends, is basically the one and only thing I care to talk about in this house admin. So deal with it. It is what it is. Right, looking at last week's video, 121. So this is Ask Me Anything 122. Starting at the top, Urizofa Akilazhowski. Here's my question, Dom. Label related. I never submitted to a label before, so I have this question. What chances are me getting rejected if I submit unfinished (brackets but solid) ideas in opposed to finished tracks? I understand that finished tracks have an easier time getting signed, but I wanted to know your opinion on work in progresses being submitted to your label, knowing that 5302 is less focused on the EDM formula and more interested in the listening side of electronic music. You probably have a drink by your side at the moment, and so do I. Cheers. Well, in which case, double cheers to you. Yes. I'll be honest, this beer is a hazed New England Pale Ale by a local-ish brewery, Bad Company, and it was bought in a local mega supermarket, which usually do really bad beers, the supermarkets, but this one's actually quite nice. Anyway, okay, right. It's a good question. I'll answer on behalf of other labels first. Other labels, I would say 99% of the time send your absolute finished, best, mastered, mixed, you name it, ready to go. If you can include artwork, if you can include titles, if you can include any promotional material, any whatever, you tell them you've got everything good to go. You've got the logo, you've got whatever. You're selling a brand. You are a brand, and you're selling yourself, the brand, to a record label, and I think that's hugely important to get across. So I think that's my advice for any other record label out there. Now, for my record label, I would say almost the opposite is true. I don't want a finished brand, because 5302, whilst it is a brand of its own, its brand identity is its own thing, and its own whatever it is, its own artistry. So for me, I would rather have a work in progress to an extent. In fact, so far of the EPs and tracks that have been signed or am in the process of signing, and I think the fact that I'm saying in the process of signing says a lot, because there have been multiple artists approach me with maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks, and I've gone, love this one, not so keen on this one. How about if this one had this sort of sound, or love this idea, what if you tried this, that, or the other, something. Obviously if I got sent a stomping techno track, I'm not going to say, hey, why not try an ambient version. It needs to be already great, but I just maybe want a couple of things changed. So for me, I kind of want it to be a collaborative label, I suppose, where the artist and the label work together on things. At the end of the day, and I think this is fair for any record label, that most record labels these days they take 50% cut of whatever. Well, do they put in 50% of the work? It's debatable for a lot of labels. I get that some labels maybe don't need to, but some really do. They really, really do. So that's my view. So absolutely less focused on the EDM formula. If anything, we're focused on the opposite of the EDM formula, really. So I really like the idea of just getting works in progress. I mean, I think what's tricky then, and maybe this makes it harder for some people, I don't know, but what's tricky is, where do you draw the line at what, I guess you need to be able to send me something where I can really picture the finished product or where it's going. So it needs to have something that grabs me. It can't just be a chord phrase or whatever, unless it's just the world's most amazing chord phrase. But it needs to have some substance. There needs to be at least, if there's only, say, 10 instruments in there, at least 3 or 4 of them need to really grab me one way or another. So while I don't want complete draft sketches, I'm absolutely fine with having something where someone goes, you know what, the arrangement might need a fiddle, or I haven't mixed and mastered it, or whatever. I'm good with that, so long as all the ideas are in place as you think they should be. Hopefully that makes sense. Fanfan87, salut Dom, Pluto, high five. Listening to your album from start to finish, it's in my top 3 albums of 2020 so far. Well, thank you very much. That is a big deal for me, because it's an emotional journey, no doubt. It affects me as deep as last Tale of Us album, Endless, purely atmospheric. Your Don't Press That, oof boy, I wasn't ready. I started having wet eyes. Well, thank you very much. Weirdly, that's turned out to be a few people's favourites, Don't Press That. And for people who haven't heard the album yet, why not? Pause this video right now and find it. So Don't Press That. There's no drums. There's kind of very little of anything, and I that's kind of how I wanted it. It was really stripped back, and it was really about the chords and not much else other than a piano and bass. But I really wanted to drive home those chords and raise them through inversions, and there are actually, I think, 3 or 4 different bass lines going on, but you'll only really hear one, and there's a weird evolution of them. So it's an odd one. Okay, anyway, but thank you. My questions. Why so many references to breakbeat? They're haunting the entire album, really. Haunting in a good way or haunting in a bad way? I hope, as it's one of your top 3 albums, I hope it's in a good way. So yeah, it's one of the reasons I called the album Artificial Roots was it is a nod to my roots in music, really, in dance music in particular. When my career really first took off, I was a progressive house DJ, and so it was before electro was even, or EDM was even a thing. And with progressive house, there was always a bit of breakbeat in there, and I think there were a couple of tracks that I wrote and a couple of remixes that I did that were sort of teetering on breakbeat, and they really sort of raised my profile. And yeah, that's kind of where I kind of began my career, I suppose. So this album was kind of exploring the roots of my career and my roots in musicality, and also my roots in being a nerd and sci-fi film and things like that. And so it all kind of comes together, and then obviously all of that being artificial, being that I kind of wondered, is it real or isn't it real? And then of course the whole artificial intelligence thing in the story. Again, if you haven't seen the narrative, then please do go and find it. It's on the 5302.co.uk website, 5302.co.uk website. And yeah, so the breakbeat thing, it's just something I love, and I wanted this album to be something different, and I kind of just didn't want to use nothing but 4/4 beats all the way through. And I felt like with breakbeat there's more emotion in the rhythms, I think. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, I guess. How did you get inspired by the story of the album? Why Carrie? I don't spoil the booklet. Not a problem. Can you talk about the movies that have inspired that? Right, starting at the start. So how did you get inspired by the story of the album? I honestly, I don't know. I think it's just one of those things that I think all of us nerds kind of will stay up all night wondering strange things about the universe and intelligence and artificial intelligence and computers, and where's the future going, and and we've all watched movies like Terminator 2, and sort of we've seen the sort of whole Skynet fear-mongering thing, and I don't know, I think that story is in all of us, really, and also I kind of wanted it to represent maybe movements and changes that we've made in our own lives that maybe some of us wish we could go back and do it again, and that could be for good reasons or bad. Maybe we'd do it differently, I don't know. So that was kind of the inspiration. Why Carrie? It's not actually an acronym, and I realise that a lot of people will probably pronounce it Carew, apart from people who are from Wales, who will know the word and name as Carrie, because it's a girl's name in Welsh. It's also a Welsh word. It means love. So I kind of figured that 99.999% of the world don't speak Welsh, so I thought it'd just be a nice little nod to my homeland, and also the fact that it means love, which is of course not what artificial intelligence should be able to feel. So there we go. I'm glad you asked that, because that's this is probably the only opportunity I'll ever have to be able to say that out loud. Can you talk about the movies that have inspired the background story? No, because there aren't any. I don't think. I mean, there are certainly sci-fi movies that have inspired me and my life and everything I do in life, but I'm not sure if I had one in particular in mind for this. It was just kind of, I don't know, my own thing. Because I see some Star Wars, Inception, Black Mirror's Metalhead, a bit of Alien. Well, there we go. Yeah, you're naming films that changed me in my life. So I would say there's probably some of that in there. Yeah, definitely. What's your real feelings about artificial intelligence? Is it a good thing in long term for us, given who are making them currently? Are you afraid? P.S. I am. No, I'm not afraid. I don't think. I find it fascinating. I think we're a long way off true artificial intelligence, as in consciousness and free thinking artificial intelligence. So I don't really think there's anything to worry about. But also I think there's lots of sort of theories of how it shouldn't be scary, because even if artificial intelligence beings became sentient and self-aware, they should then recognize us as the creators, and therefore they could technically only be on our side. There are theories about it, but I don't know much about them, so I won't talk much more about them. There we go. Thanks for that album, for the background text. Really love the fact that I can put images on the sound. Thank you very much. Yeah, I kind of felt like it was worth putting that narrative out with the album, because it's not often, you get to sort of hear an album and be able to picture something with it, I suppose. So yeah, I felt like it needed doing. Andrew Hollis, Pluto, high five. More questions on mixing. 1. Do you leave all your mix, EQ, compression, reverb choices to the Mixbus project and have only stylistic EQ, compression, etc. in Bitwig? So you are generally happy with the sounds, albeit flat, and then do all low cuts and boosts, etc. in the mixdown? No. I have... So, okay, yeah, so mix, EQ, compression, reverb, yes, I leave that for Mixbus. However, I think I probably cut some things in Bitwig just because it's annoying me, or, if I felt there was a synth with just a really notchy, annoying sound at say 300 hertz or 500 hertz or something like that was just a bit muddy, then I'd probably scoop some of that out. I'm not going to just go, I'll leave that there until later. However, if I felt like my hats maybe they didn't have quite enough presence or something in Bitwig, what I would usually do is, rather than EQ it, because in a mixdown, if you're just treating stems, or if you've just been given a master to do, and you felt like the hats needed a bit more presence, you'd find the hats in the EQ, and then maybe raise or high shelf, even depending on where they are and what else is there, to get that bit of extra sparkle. Whereas if I'm still in the production stage, I wouldn't ever do that EQing. But if I felt like the hats needed more presence, then in my opinion, I've used the wrong hats. So I need to rethink about that and work out why it is. Because I think if you need to EQ the hats to raise them, and I'm just using hats as an example, but I feel like if you've got to that point where you think, I need to really boost these hats or something in the production stage, you've still got an opportunity to just change the hats. Maybe try a different hat. Maybe there's another, a different fundamental reason why those hats don't have enough presence. It could just be a simple gain boost. It could be. It could be that they need some reverb or something. Stick that on top, not a problem. But 9 times out of 10, I'd probably just try and change the hi-hat first. Or if I felt my kick wasn't poking through the whole track hard enough, I probably got the wrong kick. I don't think I'd bother with an EQ, or I wouldn't try and do a mix fix at the point of production, just because there are better things I can do, like change the entire kick, just swap it out for something else. So I think that it's kind of easier that way. Yeah. Whereas there will always be things that I then notice later on. So I guess this is kind of the point I need to make, is that I'll only change those things in Bitwig if it's bugging me in the production stage. If I haven't noticed it or anything, then I'm just not touching it. If I'm using some 16th hi-hats and I've put them in and I'm carrying on with the rest of the track and I haven't noticed anything wrong or bad with the hi-hats, then I'm not going to do anything to them. And then I might get to the mixdown stage and open up Mixbus, load it in there, and I then might go, do you know what, these hats need a bit more presence. But really in the production stage, I'm kind of not, it's really hard to explain, because I'm kind of not focusing on that. I'm not asking myself, do these hats have presence? And for those of you that have seen my tutorials and have seen that I separate the two jobs, I have my production job, and then I export everything as stems, load it into a new DAW. Doesn't have to be, but I do. And I load it in as stems in a new project, let's say, and that becomes my mix project, and then I start the mix down. It's a way of sort of separating your mindset and mentality from the two jobs, because they should be done by two different people, or two different perspectives, I should say. It doesn't have to be two different people. I am only one person. So yeah, I think I've got to sort of clarify in saying I don't always ask myself, "Ooh, are these hi-hats okay?" I'll only change something if it's bugging me to the point where I don't even need to ask the question. It just annoys me. Otherwise I just leave it to the mix stage. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Question 2. Any ideas what dithering... Oh, read more. What dithering algorithms of power triangle and rectangle do, and which one you use? I honestly do not know which one I use. I don't tend to do any dithering in Bitwig exports, because I re-import as stems into Mixbus, and I will generally use whatever the default dither is, and I don't know what that is, because I've not even looked, if I'm honest, or if I'm sure I will have looked when I first started using Mixbus. So yeah, and I think it's triangular, I think, but I'm not entirely sure. I use Sonar/Cakewalk for mixdowns, and it offers those dithering options. So power R, triangle, and rectangle. I would go with triangle, I guess, just because it's what I recognize. Rectangle, I'm not sure I've even ever seen that. And dithering is something that I've got to admit I don't have much knowledge in there, in that I know it exists and I know why it exists, but really I've never experimented with different dithering options. I've never felt the need to. Maybe I do need to, but no one's ever told me I need to, so I've kind of just left it at that. It's outside of my remit, I suppose. So there we go. John Bloomfield. Hey Dom, Pluto, high five. A few questions for you this time. Since getting my studio set up again, I am having some really odd MIDI issues. I've tried using USB to my Moog Sub 37 from Bitwig, a hardware instrument, setting the MIDI out to the Moog, but I seem to get stuck notes on the Moog a lot. Sub 37 has the latest firmware, and I am on Bitwig 3.2.7. I've also tried it through a Sub-Zero USB MIDI interface, setting the MIDI channel to 15 on the Sub 37 and out channel to 16, but seems to do the same. Hoping my Moog isn't buggered. Yeah, that's definitely an issue with the Moog at that point. When mastering your tracks, do you use... Oh, that's an entirely different thing, but I have seen you... Yeah, there we go. Update. So it seems that resetting my Sub 37 back to factory settings has sorted the MIDI issue out, at least over USB anyway. Going to try DIN MIDI cables later. So yeah, it's a weird one. MIDI over USB has often been a bit patchy, and I don't know why. I always felt like it must be just USB being a bit patchy, and I think it's perhaps to do with if you are a hardware developer and you only need a USB socket on your device to send and receive MIDI signals, you tend to go for a fairly basic USB 1.0 type socket, and I think those, sorry, my camera ran out there. Yeah, I think those are inherently a little bit buggy. Don't quote me on that because I don't know what Moog use on the Sub 37. I don't know whether it's a USB 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, who knows. They could easily come from the future, knowing them. So I'm glad you got it sorted, because actually, if I'm honest, I don't think I could have helped you. I would have probably just suggested, going back to factory settings and restarting and seeing if it fixes it. Apparently it did, so there we go, problem solved. I see you've got another question. When mastering your tracks, do you use third-party plugins or Bitwig ones? I vaguely remember you using Harrison Mixbus, so do you recommend some good plugins to use with that? So, mastering and mixing for me, to use third-party plugins or Bitwig ones. I use no Bitwig ones because it's all Harrison Mixbus. As for plugins, I highly recommend that you use any of the Brainworks ones. Brainworks are they just keep churning them out at the minute. There's BX-V2, there's which is, I think, digital V2, I should say, which is like a mid-side mixing tool, an EQ basically. There is BX-XL V2, that is it's mid-side multi-band compression. There is a whole host of Brainworks ones. Basically, you can't miss them. They're on the Plugin Alliance website. I'd highly recommend those. They're solid, absolute solid. Aside from that, I use the Waves L1 a lot. I guess because it was always there for me. It's just one of those. Do you know what? There's probably a million compressors out there or limiters that are better or cleaner or more responsive than the Waves L1. But I really am just a man of little change. And yeah, so I've stuck with the L1 for just donkey's years, and I just never. It was a great limiter, it was a great compressor, and I use it as a sort of gain staging tool. Yeah, and I just never really felt the need to venture beyond it. I probably should. What else do I use? Nugen Audio's ISL2. Highly recommend that. That's the last thing on my chain apart from Nugen Audio's Master Check, which is the very last thing on my chain. It's non-destructive though, so it's just a monitoring situation where I can monitor all the levels post master. But the last destructive thing in the chain is Nugen's ISL2, which is just a true peak limiter, and a brilliant one at that. The fact that you can hit the difference button and it will basically do like a weird polarity reverse that allows you to just hear the transients that are being cut by the limiter, by the intersampling peaks or peak limiting. So you can just hear all the little clicks and crackles, and you can hear what's being taken out, what you're losing from your track. I love that button. I think it's genius. So there we go. That is that. P.S. Thanks for the digital download of the album. Enjoying it a lot. Cheers. Thank you very much. Double high five. Yeah, I'm so glad people are liking my album. Moving on. Yanis Luckmouse. Hi, Dom. Thanks for the great answer. Pluto. High five. That was quick and easy. Dream Puppet. Hi, Dom. Pluto. High five. Always a pleasure watching your videos. I saw cool questions already, so it will be interesting listening to your opinion in this week video. Cheers. High five. And then I can see a spam bot. Good. I wait for love from you. Why not read you out? and then I can't remember who it was. It was Techalite who reported it as spam, and I said I thought I'd found true love. There we go, my friends. That is it for Ask Me Anything 122. I'm going to finish off just by saying my album is out now. Go get it. Go listen to it. You can order it on iTunes. You can listen to it, I suppose, on Apple Music if you're that way inclined. Personally, I prefer Spotify. And if I'm honest, I get to see the stats and stuff on the other side of the artist's things, and I think most people tend to prefer Spotify, if I'm honest. Apple, come at me. Yeah, there we go. So please do give it a listen. If you like it, give it a good review or rating or whatever it is your device allows you to do. It would be greatly appreciated. I'm sure this won't be the last you're hearing of it anyway. In fact, I'm sure I'll be talking about it again this time next week. So until next time, cheers. See ya.